All right, transitional English. This is going to be an introduction to the first unit that we're going to be doing this year. A lot of stuff we've been doing so far has been kind of practice. I've shown you a couple videos that were kind of for fun about credibility, and I took you out by the pool and showed you how rich I was, and we talked about the rhetorical triangle. And now we're going to start using some of that stuff. In our first unit, I've called it The Shallows because that's the book we'll be reading. But really, and it's a book by Nicholas Carr. Here's the book right here. And you'll be reading this book this semester. But really, what it's about is technologies and their impact. How do technologies impact our lives? How are they impacting us in a lot of ways that we may not even realize? Now, I do also want to say at the beginning of this, I'm going to post this in Conversations, and you don't have to watch this. If you just want to watch the sway on your own and you think that's faster and you don't want to listen to me, that's fine. You'll have to watch the sways if there's any videos anyway, because you won't be able to hear the videos on here. So I'm just going through this to read some of the stuff to you and help you out, maybe bring some more context to what we're doing. The table of contents for this unit is the course overview, of course, the purposes of the academic notebook. We'll have an academic notebook that you'll be writing in and recording observations. Lesson 1 is the impact of noise. Lesson 2, the rhetorical précis. Lesson 3, vital paths. Lesson 4, the mind and the page and a synthesis. Lesson 5, internet, books, and our brains. Lesson 6, the alienating potential of technology. Lesson 7, drafting and presentation. And Lesson 8, a synthesis writing final draft. So there'll be a writing at the end of this. Literacy. This is a literacy course designed to make you more literate and more college ready. And I'll just read it right here. Welcome to the first English literacy unit of the SREB Readiness course, Literacy Ready. What does English literacy mean? English literacy is based on an understanding that texts, both literary and informational, provide a terrain for interrogating the meanings of human experience, and that literary texts are open to dialogue between and among readers and texts. When reading texts in English classes, both in high school and in college, students should be able to read for and recognize the development of argument, claim, evidence, structure, and point of view over the course of a text, decipher rhetorical strategies and patterns, make inferences from details, analyze how the author's choices contribute to the power, persuasiveness, or the beauty of text, draw on prior knowledge to construct interpretations, and use the text to reflect on the human condition or the reader's life. In this course, you will take part in several activities aimed at improving your literacy, specifically as literacy is used in English. While certainly the content covered in this course is important, a principal purpose of this course is to equip you with the tools necessary to be more successful in your college coursework. To that end, the creators of this course have developed this academic notebook. Very important phrase right here. The content of this course is important, but more important is the skills that you're developing using this content. A lot of times in English, it's about, memorizing Emily Dickinson poems or knowing who Walt Whitman is. Great to know those things and great to know those poems. But what's more important is that you have skills to access these texts for yourself. Okay, so it's more about the skills. When you do this, you're going to look at this next part called juicy sentences, what makes it seem like something kind of titillating. Examine the quote. English literacy is based on an understanding that texts, both literary and informational, provide a terrain for interrogating the meanings of human experience, and that literary texts are open to dialogue between and among readers and text. Whew, that's a big quote. All the way from there to there. It's a big sentence. Got a lot of things going on here, a lot of big words, and a lot of information. And that's why we call it a juicy sentence. There's a lot in there to squeeze out of it, okay? So with this, you're going to fill out the following Microsoft form discussing what you think these phrases mean, okay? And then we'll start talking about the impact of noise. In this lesson overall, you'll explore the nature of disciplinary literacy in English language arts classes, as well as the goals and purposes of the course. Read informational text so as to recognize argument, claim, and evidence structure and point of view in relation to the central claim of the shallows, what the internet is doing to our brains. Our text. Participate in a data collection and analysis experiment designed to engage you with the content of the unit, to assist you in understanding how evidence can be used to substantiate claims, and to develop a definition for multitasking. In other words, this book is an informational text, and it's going to be making a claim. And we're going to do an experiment in class to try to substantiate that claim. You'll be involved in it. Apply strategies for locating words in an informational text that are unfamiliar to you and determining the meaning of those words using both context clues and dictionaries. In all of my English teaching career, I've probably been bigger on this than anything else. If you know the meaning of the words, you can know the meaning of the text. And if you don't know the meaning of the words, you can't know the meaning of the text. It's that simple, really. And there's strategies for getting to know the meaning of words. We do it sort of artificially in class, where we take dictionaries and really stop and look at it. Basically, the best way to learn vocabulary is to read. Because the more you're reading, the more in context you're seeing these words, and as you see them time and time again in various contexts, you'll start to just develop an understanding of the meaning of the words without being so explicit about it. But we're going to be more explicit about particular words that are very important for you to be able to understand the text that we're reading. When reading text in English classes, both in high school and in college, students should be able to, and we've already seen this, and this is just a restatement of what we've already said, read for and recognize the development of argument, claim, evidence, structure, and point of view over the course of a text. So you know about all these things. We talked about the rhetorical triangle and the argument that the speaker is making a claim. And if that claim is good, he should have evidence. He should be able to back up that claim with evidence. That claim should be logical. And we talked about logos and things like that. So we're going to be talking about all three of those things a lot: argument, claim, evidence, structure, and point of view. Decipher rhetorical strategies and patterns. Does that look familiar? Yeah. Rhetorical strategies, rhetorical triangle. The rhetorical strategies, of course, being, I almost said rhetorical tragedies. Rhetorical strategies being what? Pathos, basically. Your appeals, what you're appealing to. That are appeals to credibility, and appeals to logos, being logical, but mainly the pathos, when you appeal to someone's emotions and you try to convince them, but through all those things: logic, credibility, and emotional appeals. Make inferences from details. Certain details that an author maybe puts in or doesn't put in, why do they put that in there? What can we infer that the author doesn't exactly say, but that we can infer from the text? So that's a deeper reading strategy beyond just the text level, going beyond text, which is very important in this type of literacy class, because that's the kinds of things that you're going to be asked to do in college. Analyze how the author's choices contribute to the power, persuasiveness, or beauty of a text. And that's great. Of course, authors and writers, speakers can be very powerful. They can be very persuasive, and some literature is transcendent and poignant just as in beauty, and because of the way they chose to write it. So draw on prior knowledge to construct interpretations. I hope you've heard about this since you were in grade school. Prior knowledge. Prior knowledge is what makes reading such an active and organic experience, because we all bring different prior knowledge to the text. I'm 44, so my prior knowledge about technology is very different than your prior knowledge about technology. I remember when the Atari 2600 came out, and how it was magic that I could make this little Pac-Man move around on the screen and eat the little dots, and it seemed like witchcraft. And it just, now all of this is just everywhere. It's gone from that to these amazing things. So your idea of technology and your prior knowledge is different than mine. Again, I've seen how technology has changed and how maybe it's changed people where you have grown up in it, so maybe it's not as obvious to you. Use the text to reflect on the human condition or the reader's life. Excuse me. This is a huge issue that sometimes I don't think we think about enough. Why do we read? Why do we write? It's about the human condition. It's to understand the human condition and in your own life and other people's lives. There is a condition, and honestly, it's mostly bad. The human condition is mostly of despair and a lot of control over us that we don't want. There's a lot of very negative factors and a lot of things, advertisements, and like I said, you know, it's hard to explain, but the human condition is, let me just pause it just a second. Again, we'll get into that more or later, a lot about the human condition and how it's negative, but how it can be transcendent and beautiful too, and we can learn a lot through literature. So what it's going to ask you to do here is examine each of the bullet points and think about how familiar you are with each. What do you know about each, and what your strengths and weaknesses are with each. Now, I've explained, you know, what they are, and I want you to think about, you know, what these things mean to you. Hopefully, all of this is not new to you, and it's not the first time you've heard about it in my class. I don't believe it is. Argument, claim, evidence, rhetorical strategies, patterns that people use. I didn't mention that, but, you know, repetition is obviously a strong pattern. You know, alliteration, other things that parallel structure is another one. All kinds of things that you can do with literature to drive a point home. Making inferences and you know, reading off text. Thinking about what the author chose to do and how those choices made his argument more powerful or persuasive or beautiful, or how maybe you think it didn't make it as powerful or persuasive or beautiful. Drawing on prior knowledge, you know, again, understanding that reading is an active process, not passive, that you are bringing your personal experience and personal self to a conversation with that author, and he's going to try to convince you, and it's going to be different for everybody. You know, some people are just going to be easily convinced because of their prior knowledge. Other people are going to be more tough to convince because of their prior knowledge. So we're all going to be different that way. So examine those and see what you think about them, and then we're going to discuss that out loud in class with each other. And here's a little picture of it. I would just put this on the end in the couple minutes we got left. The purposes of the academic notebook. The academic notebook has several roles in this course. First, you will keep a record of your reading of the central text, which in this case is the shallows, what the internet is doing to our brains, by making reading log entries for assigned readings. So the idea behind the reading logs is to provide you with both direction and structure for collecting the ideas, for noticing the structure of the argument, and for evaluating the claims and the evidence in this central text. The notes that you take in the reading log will be used at the end of this unit as preparation for a synthesis essay, in which you will take a position on one of the arguments made in the central text and synthesize information supporting your position. Again, we talked about it's important to keep up with this and work on it as you go, because that's information you're going to use for an essay. A second role of the notebook is to provide you with space so you can make note of new vocabulary that you encounter in the text and collect information about the meanings of those words. To carry out this role, you will use vocabulary charts to make note of words that are new to you. Write the context in which you find the word, rate your understanding of the word, and write a dictionary definition for the word, as well as your own understanding of that definition. The final role of this notebook is that of an assessment tool. I will periodically take up the notebooks and review your work to ensure that you're remaining on task and to assist you with material that is causing you difficulty. At the end of the 6-week module, I will review the contents of this notebook as part of your overall grade, so it's very important. Thus, it is important that you take this work seriously, as this notebook becomes the record of your activity in this course. You will notice that a good deal of the work involved in this course will need to be done as homework. For some of you, this increased amount of time will be difficult, but you can read the rest of it.